My reflection, like an in-depth reflection on many of my classes, can actually be found in my faculty evaluations, those yearly evaluations that I receive feedback from my division dean in, and those have their own separate tab. But as you are taking a look at my student evaluations, how students evaluated my teaching, I thought this would be a really wonderful moment to pause and share with you some of my reflections from the feedback that I've noticed patterns and what patterns I saw that came up and what I have done to try and improve the way that I reach my students. The first part, I'm gonna touch on four different aspects, and the first one is kind of a funny way to kick things off. I received feedback in one of my evaluations that said, I'm paraphrasing, but it said along the lines of, not everything is about theater. And that was in one of my COM 101 classes. And I have to say, when I first read that feedback, I had to chuckle to myself, like, oh, well, to me, everything is about theater. But then once I took the time to really reflect on what that student was intending to tell me, it really hit home. And I started to think back on examples that I would use in class. Quite often, almost all of the time, when I would give an example over, let's say, vocal variety, I would use an example from, oh, here's an acting workshop that we can do. Or if I'm doing an assignment over gestures and how important gestures are when you're telling a story or when you're presenting, again, I would go back to my acting training. And I thought, wow, this student really hit the nail on the head when it comes to my teaching style. I need to be better about this because they're right. Not everything is about theater, and in fact, most people have a very small connection to theater. So since I received that feedback, and it's not something that really appears in a change in my syllabus or anything like that, so like physically writing it down to document it isn't quite the most useful. But I did want to share that I've made an effort to expand my examples to have significantly less theater involved in my communication courses. So when I go back and I talk about gestures, instead of using theater as an example, I may use the example of when we're trying to teach small children and how being very clear and direct can be very helpful because then they have that visual stimuli as well. They have that visual cue to be able to pay attention. And even though in my mind I'm still thinking this is exactly what we do in acting class, I am trying to make the conscious effort to mention acting and theater less because I know I do it a lot. And so I'm very grateful for that feedback. I think that that's starting to make me a more inclusive instructor. I am challenged to look for new ways and new examples to use in my class. So number one, not everything is about theater. Number two, I had several students give me the feedback of, we have this textbook, I want to use it more. And that being said, the textbook that we use for COM 101 is actually one of the most affordable textbooks on campus. I call it our handy dandy notebook. It's this little thing. And I was mainly using it to refer to vocabulary terms because, again, it's this itty bitty tiny notebook. And once I received the feedback of, we have this book, I have the vocabulary, why aren't we doing other things? Again, it was one of those aha moments of, wow, you are right. We should be utilizing this to its full extent. So that you actually can see in all of my classes, different assignments now. I will direct students right back to the exact moment in the textbook when we talk about that theory or that concept, or just that tip that may be available in the textbook. And I've seen my students are able to grasp the vocabulary better now that for basically every single assignment, even if it's not intensely rooted in what we covered in the textbook, I am giving them a foundation to refer back to in the text. So that's something that I feel that I've really been improving in. Next, my third aspect is going to be flexibility. I I really came from a background of having these rigorous standards of, oh, it's a public speaking class, you must be in attendance or you'll never learn anything, you have to be here. And I still feel that way. I still feel that the experience that we have in the classroom is vitally important. We do a lot of exercises to where students um, are able to practice their skills of speaking in front of a small group or speaking in front of a large group. And I do think that it's important that we continue to have those exercises, and coming to class is very, very important. But that being said, I don't think that I was fully taking into account the needs of our specific students. We have students who are single mothers. We have students who are working full-time jobs. We have students that, to be very honest, education is important, but they have many other aspects of their life that they're trying to balance. And once I was able to start understanding those needs, and that every single learner is going to have a particular way that they need to approach the class, I feel that I became a better instructor. One thing that I've implemented, and you can see this in my syllabi, is I have due dates. I have hard due dates. Those due dates are important. But I also have an automatic 3-day extension. And I've noticed that since I've implemented the 3-day extension, students are actually way more apt to complete their work in a quality way. So I instruct them that they should not lean on that 3-day extension. The extension should be only for emergencies. But if there is something that comes up in their life, and they don't have to tell me what it is, it can be absolutely anything. It can be anything from, I got a flat tire, or there was a stampede of horses in my living room and my laptop exploded. Or it could just simply be, I didn't have it in me to complete that assignment today. I needed a few more days for me. Once I could recognize those individual needs and account for that in the syllabus and explain those expectations up front, I have seen an improvement in the quality of work. Now, sometimes those assignments roll in a day or two after the due date, but it's not often, and I've noticed a decrease in student anxiety. Now when they reach out, they're doing a much better job of reaching out when they're missing the assignment. Hey, Ms. Klocke, I'm going to miss this deadline. I will have it in by the end of the extension. And so it gives them this grace period, and then in my mind, even though the due date's there for the student, I go 3 days extension. We'll be aware of it after 3 days. We'll worry after 3 days. And I really do think that that has decreased a good deal of the anxiety in those COM 101 classes. And so I'm very fortunate to have received feedback from my students that wanted more flexibility in the classroom and wanted more flexibility with assignments. And that feedback, I think, has at least put me on the road to being a more understanding instructor and to try and serve my students' specific needs in a better way. And then finally, number 4 is I did receive a good bit of feedback from students over wanting more connection in online classes. And to be very honest, I was kind of at the beginning of COM 101 when it started to shift online. I taught at Eastern Oklahoma State College, and during my time there, I worked there from 2012 to 2017. And around 2012 was when the state of Oklahoma started to it started to implement or accept online public speaking classes. So I had the opportunity of working on the creation of what does online public speaking look like. And I think that I fell into some patterns. I think that I fell into some patterns of, I have discovered these rubrics and we shall do these assignments, and these assignments are going to be super helpful and we're going to follow this instruction. And I think that in that pattern, I stopped allowing myself to grow. I think I started to lean on tricks that had worked in the past. And as that field has changed, as our students have had more access to technology, more ability to connect with each other through social media, expectations for online communication classes have changed. And so the feedback that I've received from students wanting more of a connection has inspired me to change some things up. Uh, you'll notice in some of my online classes now, I always have virtual meet and greets. I have an online virtual introduction to the syllabus. So we were there all together to be able to go over the syllabus. And then throughout the semester, I kind of schedule these fun, to me they're fun. I kind of schedule these online sessions throughout the semester that do deal with the course material, but I try and approach it in a little bit fun of a way. One of the assignments I love to do in the Com 101 online class is we have a virtual Zoom session, and it's all about public speakers failing, making horrible mistakes. And we just take, 30 minutes or so to take a look at people who have made careers out of being public speakers completely and totally bomb. And it's a great way for us to deal with our anxiety, to laugh at ourselves, and to recognize that the world's pretty darn big. And if we accidentally make a mistake in an online recorded speech, it's okay. We can grow and learn from that. So I'm genuinely grateful for those students' feedback to let me know that they wanted more of an more of a connection face to face. So I'm definitely trying to tune in more to them. So thank you for your time to take a few moments to listen to my reflection as I've grown over the last few years here at CSM.